The rain doesn't ask permission in this city. Neither does the shift that just ended. 11 hours. Fluorescent lights, a manager who forgot my name twice, and a paycheck that'll be gone before the ink dries on the deposit slip. I walk home because the bus costs money I can't spend twice in one night. My pockets are as empty as the promises they sold me at 19. Work hard, keep your head down, climb the ladder, retire in comfort. Nobody mentioned the ladder was rented. Nobody mentioned somebody else was collecting rent on every single rung, every single year, while I climbed toward a ceiling that kept quietly rising to stay just out of reach. Somewhere behind these wet windows, a city sleeps in apartments. It doesn't own, dreaming about mornings. It's too tired to enjoy. Case file. My own life. Rent, due. Interest, compounding quietly while I sleep, whether I want it to or not. Time, vanishing in pieces too small to notice until the pieces add up to a decade. I used to think poverty was a lack of money. It isn't. It's a lack of hours. They don't need to lock you in a cell. They just need to keep you tired enough that you never stop to ask why the door was never locked to begin with. 11 hours of labor, 2 hours of commute, swallowed by trains and traffic. 1 hour to eat something and stare at a wall, too depleted to think past dinner. By the time you're technically free for the day, you're too broken to spend that freedom on anything but sleep. And tomorrow, the meter starts running again. This is the machine's oldest trick. Not chains, but exhaustion. A tired mind doesn't plan escape routes. It doesn't read the fine print on the contract it signed half asleep. It just wants sleep, and in this city, even sleep has a price tag. They call it the cost of living. I call it a toll booth with no exit sign, collecting from you at every stage of a road that never actually leads anywhere. Every low-wage job is engineered the same way, whether anyone designed it on purpose or not. Pay you just enough to survive the week and demand just enough of your hours that you never have the strength left over to build something that belongs to you instead of them. Fatigue isn't an accident of the system. Fatigue is the product. So here's the question that kept me up that night, colder than the rain outside the glass. If quitting is suicide because the bills don't pause for principles, and staying is slow starvation because the job was never built to make you rich, then what's the third option nobody puts in the career pamphlets? I found it, eventually, staring at my own reflection until it stopped looking like a victim. It's not rebellion. Rebellion gets you fired and broke by Friday. It's not resignation either. Resignation is just surrender with better posture. It's something colder, quieter, and far more dangerous to the people who built this system than either one. It's a plan. And plans, unlike anger, actually survive contact with Monday morning. I didn't quit the next morning, and I want to be honest about why. Because quitting is what amateurs do when they mistake anger for a strategy. Anger feels like momentum. It isn't. It's just noise with an expiration date. So I walked back into that building the next day. Same uniform, same name tag, same fluorescent hum overhead. And I let them think absolutely nothing had changed. Because internally, everything had. I'd stopped seeing that job as a life sentence handed down by circumstance. I started seeing it, coldly and clearly, as a hostage situation. Except this time, I was quietly working out who actually held the leverage. Spoiler: it was never them. It just took me years of exhaustion to notice. Here's the reframe that changes everything. And it's not a mindset trick. It's a redefinition. That job isn't your master. It's your mark. It's the unwitting sponsor of the thing you're actually building in the hours it doesn't know exist. Every dollar they hand you is a dollar they don't realize is funding your exit from ever needing them at all. Your rent, your electricity bill, the internet connection you use at 1 a.m. None of that is survival anymore. Not really. That's operating capital, quietly repositioned. They think they're renting your time at the lowest price the market will tolerate. What they're actually doing, without knowing it, is bankrolling your escape. One underpaid, overlooked hour at a time. The moment I saw it that way, the job stopped being able to insult me. This is the Cold War nobody declares out loud, because declared wars get you noticed, and noticed things get shut down. You don't fight a system like this with a picket sign or a viral rant. You fight it in silence, in the hours it doesn't own and doesn't audit. While they think you're grinding for them, punching in, punching out, forgettable and replaceable, you're quietly building the exit they never budgeted for and never saw coming. The rebellion isn't loud. It isn't a resignation letter slapped dramatically on a desk. It's a spreadsheet nobody else has access to, growing by a small, unglamorous amount every single week, in a war they don't even know is being fought against them. So the mission changed, and it changed for good. Survive on their terms during the day, build on mine every night. Every shift became a resource extraction operation, plain and simple. Every paycheck became a supply drop, nothing more sentimental than that. I stopped asking the question that keeps most people stuck. How do I escape this job? And started asking a sharper, more useful one. How much can I extract from this system before it even notices what I'm doing? That single question, repeated daily, quietly, without an audience, is where the real work actually begins. Forget the advice about skipping your morning coffee. That's a distraction dressed up as discipline. It makes you feel responsible, while the real leaks stay wide open below deck. I hunted differently, the way you hunt a suspect who's good at hiding. I tracked every dollar like it had a motive and an alibi that needed checking. Subscriptions nobody remembers signing up for, still charging quietly, month after month, betting correctly that you won't notice. Convenience fees stacked on top of convenience fees, each one small enough to ignore. All of them together, large enough to matter. The slow, deliberate bleeding of small recurring charges, engineered specifically to be forgotten by a tired mind. You don't get rich plugging one obvious leak. You get rich finding the 17 quiet ones you never knew existed in the first place. Every case needs a war chest, so I built one and gave it a name that actually meant something to me. The Freedom Fund. Not a savings account sitting there out of habit. A getaway car, idling in the dark, fueled and ready for the exact moment I finally need it. I didn't fund it with whatever happened to be left over at the end of the month, because there's never anything left over. That's not an accident. That's how the whole system is engineered to work, right down to the paycheck cycle. I funded it first, before rent got a vote, before groceries got a vote, before anything else at the table got a say in the matter. A tunnel doesn't dig itself an hour a week on its own initiative. Neither does an exit. Somebody has to show up with the shovel, tired or not. While the job owned my daylight completely, the nights were still mine, uncontested, and nights are where the real fortune quietly gets built. Not scrolling until 2 a.m. Not another rerun, burning through hours I'd already paid for with exhaustion. Every night, I spent at least 1 hour sharpening something the market would eventually be willing to pay for. A skill, a small service, a quiet side operation too early and too unimpressive yet for anyone to notice, including me most nights. Getting rich isn't a lottery ticket you hope lands. It's a skill stack, assembled patiently and deliberately in the exact hours everyone else spends anesthetized in front of a screen, waiting for a Tuesday to feel different on its own. I made one rule absolute, no exceptions, no persuasive arguments allowed past the door, no debt that doesn't buy me leverage. Debt for comfort is a noose with excellent marketing and a friendly monthly minimum. Debt for a tool, a skill, or an asset that eventually pays you back, that's a calculated risk, and even that one I never took lightly. Every purchase got interrogated the way I'd interrogate a suspect under a single hanging bulb. What do you actually do for me, specifically, starting now? Most things failed that test immediately and got cut without a second thought. The few that passed earned a real place in the plan. Everything else got eliminated, quietly, without sentiment, without negotiation, and without a eulogy. 2 columns growing side by side in the same notebook. One counted what I'd managed to save. One counted what I could now earn on my own terms, entirely outside the job that used to own every waking hour of my life. Neither column moved fast, and neither one needed to. A siege doesn't end in a single dramatic night. It ends because the pressure never lets up, applied quietly, week after week, long after everyone else in the building has given up and gone back to sleep, satisfied with the version of the story where nothing was ever going to change. Weeks became months, and on the surface, nothing about my job changed at all. Same walls, same fluorescent hum overhead, same manager forgetting my name for the 3rd or 4th time. But something in me had gone quiet in a way that wasn't defeat. It was patience, deliberate and chosen. The kind of patience a predator has when it already knows exactly how the story ends and is simply waiting, unbothered, for the right moment to move. The Freedom Fund stopped being a hope written on an envelope and became a fact, a number that grew whether I felt motivated on any given Tuesday or not, because the system I'd built didn't run on motivation in the first place. It ran on rules I didn't have to renegotiate with myself every single morning before coffee. And right beside it, a second, newer number kept climbing too. Proof that the skill I'd built in silence could earn without asking permission from the job that used to own every hour of my life. Here's what nobody tells you about the exit, and it's worth knowing before you get there. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or a dramatic Monday morning speech. It arrives quietly, on the day the math finally tips in your favor, when the fund can cover the miles ahead, and the skill can cover the fund if it ever needs refilling. You don't feel free the day you finally quit. You feel free the day you realize you could, calmly, without panic, and you get to choose the timing instead of letting the timing choose you. So if you're reading this with empty pockets and a shift starting in 6 hours, good. That's exactly where I started, on a night that looked a lot like this one. Your low-paying job isn't a life sentence handed down without appeal. It's a temporary, involuntary investor in a business you haven't announced to anyone yet, least of all yourself. Take its money. Learn on the edges of its clock the minutes it forgot to charge you for. Build your fund in the dark, one quiet deposit at a time. And one day, Not the day you expect. You'll walk out of the rain into a morning that finally, actually belongs to you.